Hello guys and welcome back to another FPL video. I've been waiting for a while to do this video and I wanted to do it ever since the news got out, but I needed some time in order to think about the changes and make the best breakdown that I can give to you. It's basically like a cheat code. That's why I called the video like that, a cheat code to the FPL game, in particular defensive department, because I think that defensive contributions will impact massively the scene this year, and we have to take a deeper look. If you're expecting some fancy designs or some fancy spreadsheets, this is not the video for you. This will be my pure thoughts. We're going to go through the data and how I understand it, and hopefully you will be a little bit more informed at the end of the video. Now, before we jump into my thoughts, I want to lay down what defensive contributions are. This season, any defender who reaches a combined total of 10 clearances, blocks, interceptions, and tackles in a single match will score 2 points. That's good. We have this for defenders and for midfielders, but for midfielders, we have also recoveries added into the frame. So, ball recoveries will also count towards their total defensive contributions. They need to reach 12 such contributions in order to get the 2 points. There isn't 1 point, there isn't 3 points, it's either 0 or 2. That's simple and it should be known by everyone. Now, these changes looks likely that they will impact more holding midfielders and defenders and center backs in particular, because they're the guys that they're making tackles, interceptions, ball recoveries, and recoveries of and clearances, and etc. Yes, some of the fullbacks will get them, maybe some of the wingers in an odd game here and there will get them, but those changes introduce two positions now that they have been overlooked massively. Basically, since the game has begun, if a defender wasn't a goal threat or wasn't a clean sheet potential, he wasn't looked at. And if there was a holding midfielder, he just wasn't looked at. I think this now will change. And in order to prove that, this is the list of the players that were going to get the most points for defensive contributions last season. Tarkovsky, center back; Bednarek, center back. He was a Southampton defender with 40 extra points. Imagine having a Southampton defender that you can rely on, and in more than half of the games he would have scored around 3 to 4 points, because they've conceded a lot. He got yellow cards, so he wasn't going to start at the prime 2 points. So realistically, 2-3 points would have been his maximum. Dienhausen would have been amazing. In 19 of the games he would have gotten the bonus. So in many games where they lost the clean sheet, he wouldn't have left with empty hands. Muriu, another center back, and Faes, another center back. By the looks of it, center backs are the bread and butter of this game. I'm going to present to you some options outside of center backs, but that will be in the sections that we are going to discuss. As mentioned, another portion of players would have gotten the bonus points, and those are holding midfielders. Caicedo, Anderson, Gomez, Idrissa Gana Gueye, and Chris Norgard are all holding midfielders, and they're fighting for the ball. What showcases here that apart from Chelsea, every other team is considered not a top 6 side. Some of them were in a relegation battle. Southampton, Wolves, Everton, Leicester, they were all in a relegation battle, and 2 of the teams went down. Forest, Brentford, and you can add Bournemouth were a little bit different, but still they're not considered top 6 sides, and they had to fight for their place. That would mean that now, not only that defenders like Gabriel, Ivan Cowell, Van Dijk, who else is there, Guardiola, are good for the game, but also defenders such as Tarkovsky, Muriu this year, basically Elliot Anderson as a holding DM, Caicedo, all of those players are going to be very important for the upcoming season, because we'll have another route to everyone's defense apart from scoring goals. Now, I'm going to go and focus first of all and into defenders. We're going to speak about defenders in a nutshell, what I think about the situation, and then we're going to move into midfielders and how I see the potential there. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the defensive section, because I think there is where we'll spend most of the time, and I think that it's most important for you to go there and to understand what I'm saying there, and you can take some bits of advice here and there in order to incorporate into your FPL Game Week 1 squad. Going now into defensive contributions, I want to speak with a view of my team. Now, this my team is in Fantasy Football Hub website because I don't like the design and the outline in the FPL original site, and as much as possible I would avoid it. But I wanted to see players and I wanted to see a team structure in order to speak to you directly about it. Now, this is my team. If you have watched any of my videos, you know why I have this team, but disregard what I have currently in my squad. What I will do is I will remove the midfielders because no one cares about the offensive line here, the goalkeeper line, or the forward line. We are only going to speak about defenders, and that's going to be it. Now, defenders are very simple. They start a game. If they play 60 minutes, they get 2 points. If they play below 60, it's 1 point. If they concede 2 goals, they lose a point, and every 2 goals they keep losing 1. So if they concede 4, it's 0, etc, etc. If they receive a yellow card, -1. If they receive a red card, I think it was -3. So further down the road, they can lose points and they can gain points. Losing the points comes in a sense of most oftenly conceding a goal. If they get a clean sheet, they'll get 4 points. If they concede a goal, they don't get those clean sheet points. It's simple as that. The bread and butter of FPL so far for defenders, and we're going to speak only about defenders, was clean sheets, and I think it's still clean sheets, but the sweet spot was some attacking returns. What I mean, a goal for defender is 6 points. Assist for a defender is like with everyone else, it's 3 points. That's pretty clear. And if you get a defender, for example, such as Daniel Munoz, who got 4 goals, 6 assists and 11 clean sheets, you consider him a very solid defender. 142 points, he was 5 million last season, brilliant. If we take a look at someone else like Robinson, 10 assists, 0 goals though, but still 30 points from attacking returns, but only 5 clean sheets, but still he managed to get 106 points, which in theory doesn't look that much, but it was an okay performance at some times of the season. Of course, a player like Murillo, who played 38 games and got 12 clean sheets and only 2 goals, got around the 130 points. So you see that a guy like Munoz is pretty high with 142. Someone else like 8 Nuri, who got 4 goals and 7 assists, ended only on 125 because he got the 7 clean sheets only. So in order to get up to the 140 points, you not only need to get the attacking returns, but you need to get the clean sheets. You don't need only to get the clean sheets, but you need to get some attacking returns. For example, if you look at Saliba, who is a great defender and got 12 clean sheets, only 2 goals, and he's not over 130 points. So I think that Saliba falls into that category. Gabriel is a little bit different. He scored 3, assisted 2, but he played in far less games than Saliba because he got an injury, but still he ended up on 117 points. So if he doesn't get a lot of clean sheets and with the not consistent attacking returns of more than 3 goals or more than 5 goals per season, I think that it gets a little bit risky. Of course, a defender like Tarkovsky, you remember that he would have gotten 44 more points. So let's say that he finishes up on 149 points with 10 clean sheet, 1 goal and 1 assist. That is 44 points difference. Someone like Murillo, who would have gotten 38 points, would have finished on 168 points. That would mean that now not only we have clean sheets and attacking returns, we are now adding a third entity, and that entity is defensive contributions. What is the best trifecta? Attacking return, clean sheets, and defensive contributions. Those players are pretty much impossible to find. Of course, I will showcase you an example of that defender because There is an example. If you get at least 2 of them, I think you're in a good category. If you get some clean sheets with solid defensive contributions, hence Tarkovsky, you will finish around the 150 points spot if you're really, really good, but you're lacking a little bit on the goal thread. Someone like Lacroix would have gotten near the 140 points as well, with 1 goal, 2 assists, and only 11 clean sheets. I think that this is a pretty big statement that if you have 2 of them, you will get the return. So you will get Munoz with far less defensive contributions, but with the mid-range clean sheets and with a high goal scoring ratio. If you go to the other example that I gave you, 8 Nuri, he still got 11 contributions, but he didn't reach near the 140 points. I don't think he would qualify a lot for the defensive contributions, especially at City. And he would have finished around the 100 and finish on 130 points. Let's say that he got some defensive contributions. But you need at least 2 entities in order for this to happen. If you get only clean sheets, I don't think that's going to be enough. If you get only defensive contributions, I don't think that's going to be enough. Of course, it will help, but someone like Bednarek, who is out of the game now, Bednarek, even with his a lot of points, do we have? No, we don't have him in the game anymore. But even with his high defensive contributions, he would have been around the 100 points. So you need to combine 2 stuff in order to work. Now, how you split that stuff? For me, still the most consistent thing for a defender is the clean sheet. If a team is in a good defense, they get the clean sheet points. Of course, if they get the clean sheet points, most probably they are pretty much high up for contention for a bonus. Bonus is another thing that's pretty important. Without a clean sheet, it's pretty much impossible for the defenders to get a clean sheet, to get bonus points if they don't have clean sheet or an attacking return. But especially with clean sheet, it's almost guaranteed that they are going to be pretty high up. So you are going to aim still at defenders that play for teams that tend to keep some clean sheets. And some, I mean 10 or above per season. And you're going to say, but how are we going to know them? At the beginning, we have only the information from last season and how the team set up. So, for example, for my team, I know that Arsenal are a good defense. I know that Forest were a good defense. Everton historically are a good defense. Crystal Palace have shown that with 11 clean sheets, they are pretty similar to Arsenal's level and pretty similar to Forest level, I would say. And Aston Villa, I know it's only 8 clean sheets, and look at that, constant 2 goals, 8 clean sheets, and he's merely in the 100 points. That is an awful performance if you look as a full season. Of course, there are defenders that you pick only for the fixtures, because you need defenders for the fixtures. And for example, when Aston Villa plays Crystal Palace, okay, Crystal Palace not a good example, but Everton away or Sunderland away in game week 4 and 5, I would say that I would want Konsa into my team because there is a high chance of a defensive contribution. Of course, Tarkovsky facing Leeds away, then having a little bit of tough fixtures, Aston Villa at home, Brighton at home, it's still a good defensive team to have. Another option is Murillo, who is having Burnley in game week 5 and Sunderland in game week 6 and Brentford in game week 1. So I would say that he's in a pretty high potential to get clean sheets. Of course, you're going to get some clean sheets on your bench because for a not chance, Chelsea will not score against Palace and you'll be done. Now, defensive contribution, what it does for your team is that it enables you to risk it a little bit more. Let's say that you have 3 defenders and one of them gets injured and you have Chelsea away and Newcastle at home. You're going to play the defender that is pretty high on the defensive contribution, for example, Lacroix. Even though he will concede against Chelsea, there is a very high chance that he enters with 2+ points. So even if he concedes 1 or 2 goals, he can end up above 2 points, which is the end goal for defenders. That, in theory, just opens so many possibilities. Center backs that can be risked in difficult fixtures. Center backs that can be risked in easier fixtures and you are not expecting only a goal from them. Center backs or full backs in fixtures that are easy for them are going to be very good. Of course, there are several defensive options like Robinson, for example. He is very high on defensive contributions and he is very attacking. Of course, they were lacking some clean sheets last season. Maybe that will improve. Nobody knows. But with the data that we have, they were underachievers. So, for example, Robinson can be on the trajectory to be 2.5 out of 3 in the good department. Let's say 0.75 in clean sheets, 0.75 in defensive contribution, and 1 in assists. It's around 2.5. But he can be someone amazing. Elsewhere, Neco Williams, by the way, from Forest, he participated in 1 less clean sheet than the rest, but he got some attacking returns, he got some clean sheets, and he got some good defensive contributions last season. So I think that Neco Williams is going to be a prime example of a wing back that is going to get you a lot of points from everywhere, and you can risk him in every fixture there is possible. Of course, if you get a player that you risk in every fixture possible, you have to play him every fixture. You cannot wait and see only good fixtures. What I think is that there are several ways to approach your team. You either split your defense in every sense possible and you get a neo defender that you're playing every game. You get a rotation pair that gets you in good fixtures, and you get a holding player that you once again play in a good teams, and you get a cheap one at the end just to cover everyone. That's an option. What am I doing is I'm getting a clean sheet potential in 5 defenders, for example, with 3 of them, Muriu, Tarkovsky and Lacroix, being very, very high on the defensive contributions part. So if something happens to my Konsa or Gabriel's good fixtures, I can rely on someone like Muriu, Lacroix or Tarkovsky to cover. And I'm getting Konsa 4.5 enabler, playing for a top 8 side that has got some good fixtures to start the season with, in order to fill in the blanks where I can play him. Of course, if an injury arises, I'm not going to hurry up and replace them, because every one of my defenders can play in every fixture and they're capable of clean sheets. And once again, that's the bread and butter of the defensive situation. Someone like Gabriel is a defensive cover for premium team, attacking returns and clean sheets. So he's the 2 without the defensive returns. Konsa is a little bit different. He is a defender that is a fixture defender, and I only got him because he faces Everton, Sunderland and Burnley in the first 7 games, and I can rely on him. Tarkovsky, Muriu and Lacroix feel like a potential for a season-long hold. I don't care about the fixture runs in particular. I get those defenders in and I stick with them. Of course, another defender that I can get and stick with is Senesi. What I'm afraid of is that I don't know what type of defense they're going to just put in, because Zabarny is leaving also, and Kepa left, and Hausen left, and Kerkes left, and Cook is injured. So yeah, it's a little bit tough to go into Bournemouth at the moment. Someone like Andersen, I would recommend with 2 hands, is someone amazing. Of course, fixtures are not on his side. I know that he has United, Leeds, Brentford. Those are good, but you have Palace defenders in the same run. If you're willing to spend only 4.5, Chris Richards is very, very high on the list of defensive contributions, and you can save on Lacroix, basically, if you can put in Richards in your squad. I'm playing nationalities team that are only that have won the World Cup, so French from Lacroix and American for Richards. I'm picking the French one because I cannot. And you have several options to go for. Of course, you can go for a defender like Munoz that will get you the clean sheets and attacking returns. 8 Nuri will get you the clean sheets and attacking returns. But what I found interesting about attacking returns is they are ultra inconsistent and you cannot rely on them in any shape or form. This defender, Dorgo from United, I think that with time he will become a very valuable asset if he improves in the game. Taufet, how to say this Bournemouth guy, let me just check. Truffet, this guy will become an attacking option probably with time being, but we need to see if they're going to get the clean sheets, because attacking returns solely is good for single fixtures, but not for long run. And for the beginning of the season, you cannot pick players for the sake of single fixtures. I don't think it will work as expected unless it's a proven player in that team like Cons. So for example, 8 Nuri is risky, Truffet is risky, the Copper is risky, because these guys are new to the game and you don't know what will be the level in the Prem. I promised you to mention to you one defender that gets everything, and that defender is Virgil van Dijk. He has the clean sheets potential of the Liverpool side. He has the goal threat this year with Ekitike joining the side and Wirtz joining the side. I think their set piece threat will improve and Virgil will be on the receiving end on more and more chances, because I think they lacked a little bit of height. Now with Gravenberg, Van Dijk, Konate and Ekitike in the box, I think they are very, very dangerous. They have short players like Maka and Kerkes to cover back. They have Soboslai on the edge of the box. They have Salah inside the box. They have someone like Gakpo, who is a tall guy as well. So they have 5 tall, strong players in the box. And Virgil is the best option there is at the defensive part. And he is a goddamn dog, because he gets into the fight no matter what happens. And if you're looking for someone with goal threat, consistency, clean sheets, defensive contributions and neoness, that is Virgil van Dijk. This is one of the 2 players that I envy not owning. This guy has been amazing so far for Liverpool, and I think he will continue doing so. So if you want to get a defender that will sit there for 38 weeks every damn week in your team and is just set and forget, that's Virgil van Dijk. And if I were you, I would get him. If I was playing a regular fantasy, Virgil would have been the first name on my list. So I cannot emphasize how much you need Virgil, because yeah, Muriel is good, yeah, Tarkowski is good, but if they start dropping some stinkers, it will be awful. Virgil will not drop those stinkers. He will keep grinding you the points. So if you're looking to buy a defender for a must, that's Virgil van Dijk. My advice, get a solid defender like Virgil and get 4 defenders that rotate well. 3 with solid consistency fixtures, with solid defensive returns. Lacroix, Richards, Tarkowski, Murillo, Williams, Robinson, Senesi, Anderson, Richards, if I haven't mentioned him. Am I missing someone? Agbadou from Wolves. Get 3 of those defenders in your team and you can safely rely on them. And get a fixture defender like Konsa, 8 Nuri, Truffet, the Copper, Munoz. Those are fixture defenders and you get them solely for the specific run of fixtures and you adjust them. So you have 4 defenders that are always present and you have the solidity in them, premium with rotation pairs, and you have a fixture defender. Of course, if you want 2 premiums with 2 clean sheets and 1 fixture, that works as well. It's one of the 2. You need at least 1 fixture and 2 defensive contribution defenders. The rest of the spots can be fit however you want, but you want a consistent defender as well. So consistent, 2 contributions and 1 fixture, and the 5th defender is of your choice. For me is a 3rd defender with defensive contributions. It can be Cucurella, who is also very, very well suited to this game. 5 goals, by the way. This is the highest scoring defender, I believe. 2 assists, but only 9 clean sheets got him to 133 points. So he's barely touching the 140 points with defensive contributions. Of course, if Chelsea improve, he will be a massive asset. But you can consider him, Gabriel, Saliba, even Schär into that section. He scored some goals last season. Clean sheets, 118 points. Van den Ven is a fixture player, but yeah, you can get Romero in that sense to join for tackling. Of course, a lot of potential. I spent so much time on defenses. Hopefully I managed to make it clear for you guys. I think that defenders will change, and once again, a neo defender, 2 center backs with the 2 defensive contribution players and 1 fixture player are a must. The 5th spot is for your choice, but follow that template and I think you have an amazing season. You play the defenders however you want them, and I think that every week you're going to get some points in, sometimes pretty high points, sometimes mid points, but it will be very, very difficult for you to get low points, so I think that's a good start for you to start building. Now I will go and discuss midfielders and what I feel will happen with midfielders and how you should approach them. Now let's start talking about midfielders in this game and defensive contributions for midfielders. I see several approaches around the community and I think most of them are wrong. And you're going to say, but how the hell you know what's right and what's wrong? I don't. I'm just guessing and I'm just basing it on my thoughts and on my thoughts and on my understanding of the game. Most of the midfielders that we are going to get with defensive contributions are 6.5 and below. I think that even 6.5 is a hell of a high number, if you ask me, but let's talk you through it. Now, midfielders, holding GMs in particular, were very avoidable in the past. Even if they get around the 110 points, they were considered rubbish, because in order to get those 110 points, you have to stay for those 1-pointers, for those 2-pointers, and you just have to wait for a screamer outside of the box. Now with defensive contributions, this will change. Caicedo is a prime example of that. Last season he got 98 points, and with the 40, let's call it 40 points, he would have ended on 138 points. And that's a pretty high number for a 5.5 defender, if you ask, midfielder, if you ask me. We compared that defenders for 5.5 last season got less. He got around the same points as Ait Nouri, who scored a lot of goals. And he would have gotten around the same points as Munoz or Nick Williams or Anthony Robinson. Guys that were pretty popular, but Caicedo for 5.5 can get you similar returns. What I hate about specific players in holding GM positions is that they take a spot from the good sides. For me, Caicedo is 138 points type of player, 140, let's call him. But he's also a player blocking my Cucurella, my Sanchez, my Palmer, my Neto, my Joao Pedro, my Delap. 6 players that I want more than Caicedo. The same can be said about Rice. Rice is good. Rice is great. 4 goals, 7 assists, 127 points. Let's say he adds 16 points to that tally. He's also into those numbers. But he blocks Gyökeres, Havertz, Saka, Gabriel, Saliba, Skelly, White, Raya. Should I continue? Probably not. Those are players that I would want to hold in that season. A player that you see in my team is Rodrigo, and you're going to say, but that's the same as City. But with City is a little bit more different in my eyes, because you don't know what to expect from City. Haaland, Rodri, and probably not even the keeper anymore are the nailed players in that side. Everyone else is rotatable as hell. Many of you will argue that Rodri is rotatable. I will disagree here. I think that he's a shoe in that team and he's not going anywhere. They need him for their team to function, and last season was a proof to that. So yeah, I think Rodri and Haaland are playing every goddamn game if they're fit. Of course, let's look at Caicedo once again, because he's the top scoring midfielder of that. 140 points, it seems okay, but is it enough for you? Why not? Why is it not? If the answer was no, why it isn't? Why 140 points for a scoring midfielder for 5.5 is not enough for you? I will tell you, because that's not exciting. You don't want to check in 33 points, 3 points, 3 points, 3 points, 4 points, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points. And that is what GMs are going to get you. Of course, there are several cases like Anderson that takes set pieces for Forest and finishing on 107 points with 2 goals and 6 assists. Now taking some more set pieces, probably playing a little bit further ahead, probably getting some defensive contributions. I think he can be a 150 points type of player. And if you divide that by, let's say, 40 game weeks, that's around 4 points per week. Less than 4 points, but it's less than 40. So let's say it's 72, it's 144 points if he gains 4 points per week. If I tell you that you get a player for 4 points per week, you're going to bite my hand off. Honestly, even Salah gets less points some weeks. Of course, there is the next thing that I want to discuss. If you want to get those 144 points for your team, you need to play this guy. I know, 152, sorry, I cannot, I forgot how to do math at this hour, but yeah, 156 points he would have gotten, let's say with 4 points per week. In order to get those 156 points, 152, forget about my math, 152. If you want to get those points, you need to start this player 38 weeks. You cannot play the guessing game, good fixture, bad fixture, good form, bad form, mixed up, heavily blanked, rotation risk or not. In order to get those 150 points that you are expecting, you need to play him every week. If you're not prepared to play him every week, don't think about those players. They're just going to get in your way. Better for you to get as cheap as possible player. For example, Baleba is a prime example of a good defensive contribution guy with good defensive returns that will cost you 5 million and that's it. You pick Baleba and you forget about him. If you need a 4-point player, you put in Baleba and that's it. I see so many people on the internet saying that Elliot Anderson is a hidden gem. He's the prime target to get. And I agree. But only if you play him 38 weeks. You should have Virgil van Dijk and Elliot Anderson not leaving your side even if they play against each other. You have to put them every goddamn week in. If you're willing to get only the points from Anderson or rotation base, you get around half of it. Half of the fixture for Forest are that good fixtures. Most of the time you will get a player more expensive than 5.5 to play. If you're looking for a player that will target the fixtures, get a Rios. Get an exciting attacker that takes free hits and target Leeds, target Everton and be done with it. Get 5.5, let's go to 5.5 and see. Get someone like... I don't think there are that many players that will do that, honestly, looking at the list. But let's go to 6 million, maybe there are more. Get Minte for fixture. Get Tielemans, his defensive returns but fixtures as well. 120 points with some defensive contributions, by the way. Get McNeil. Get someone like... It's tough this year. But if you're looking for a fixture on Adingra, get Hudson-Odoi. I think that he is around that price. Yes, if you're looking for a fixture player, just get an attacker. Don't get the holding DM unless you are content with going with 4 points. Of course, I think there is one more exclusion to the rule, and this exclusion this time comes with Rodri. This guy would have been around 200 points the season before last one if he got the defensive contributions. He was everywhere and he scored like hell and he assisted like hell, and you just play him every week and you forget about him and you end up on 200 points at the end of the season. Even if you end on 170, if you tell me that my 6.5 midfielder is going to get me 170 points, I will bite your hand off. Basically, that is Bruno Fernandes level. That is Gordon, above Eze, above everyone exciting like that. That's why I think that Rodri and Van Dijk are the two guys that are breaking the game this year. If they're fit and if they're playing 90 minutes every week, I think they will be the top scoring defensive contributions plus returns plus good performances guys in the league, and that will benefit them the most. There are going to be players probably like Murillo, a new guy will appear, Tarkovsky, Richard, Senesi, etc, 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 that will gain up more. Anderson, Rice, everyone will get more, but I believe that Rodri and Van Dijk are going to be the two best prime examples of what defensive contributions can add to already a great player. I think that's when you're going to see their levels. Of course, what I would consider doing if I were you is I'm going to focus on a holding midfielder if I go for an expensive front line or together with the back line. If you're looking for Haaland plus Salah draft and you want to get Van Dijk in defense, I would get Elliot Anderson, I would get Baleba, I would get even Caicedo, because I put them in, I play them every week, and I get those 4 points, 4 points, 4 points, 4 points, 4 points, 4 points, and so on and so on and so on. On average, I will get those 4 points, and I know that I will finish around 150 points in that position. If you tell me that my 5 to 5.5 midfielder is going to get me 150 points, I'm all in. That is a lot of points, but don't rotate them. It's not worth rotating your midfielders. Another player that I think will break the game but is more expensive is Bruno Fernandes. My friend Kanji mentioned him to me in the past, but 8 goals, 12 assists with that stupidly bad side, with 174 points at 26 more points for defensive contributions, at a little bit more points. I think that he is going in the likes of 230, 250 points. And I think Bruno, if I was playing a regular fantasy, Bruno, Rodri and Van Dijk would have been in my game week 1 squad with my hands and my eyes closed, and I would have just put in some other randos, get a captain every week, Salah, Haaland, it doesn't matter who, and I will be there every goddamn week with those 3 players, and they will tick me the points over and over and over again. And if I get players that tick me, Van Dijk will get me 160 points, Rodri will get me 160, that's 320, and Bruno will get me 220, that's 540 points. From those 3 spots, I would be yes, take it and leave it. If I'm so tempted to create a random draft somewhere just with those 3 players in and rotate everyone else around them, and I guarantee that they will get you probably one of the highest consistent points throughout the year. Of course, someone like Salah, someone like Saka, someone like Palmer may appear, but we don't know them yet. But we know right now that I know that those 3 players are going to be the most consistent players throughout the game, and you see them pop off at some random points, and you're going to be, why don't get Rodri? You get him and he start blanking 3 weeks in a row, and then you sell him and you're like, okay, Rodri is bad, or I will get Anderson, and then Rodri banks again. And the same goes with Bruno, and the same goes with Van Dijk. You just have to have patience. They're good FPL players, and with defensive contributions they will be now amazing FPL players. Once again, if you're looking for a holding GM that you want to get his 140 to 150 points, don't rotate him. If you get for 4.5 to 5 million spot, to 5.5 even million spot, 150 points, you should be happy. You should play him every week, and that's the key to feeding Salah, Haaland and expensive team around them into that frame. Don't get to rotate them, and that will be the best solution for you. To sum it up, you get defenders that have good fixtures defensive wise and can get you defensive returns. You split them: premium defender, 2 defensive contributions, 1 fixture and 1 random player that you want to get. In midfield, I would personally get someone like Anderson, Baleba, Christie, Caicedo, Gomez from Wolves, Polina from Spurs. Polina, by the way, is joining Spurs, and he will break the game once again. I think that you will get a lot of points by getting Polina, but still, I think that's the solution to the game, and I think that is the I think that's the way to go with defensive contribution. I think that this video got way too long, but I wanted to share my thoughts. It's pure round video. I'm just showcasing some players and some structures. Soon I will prepare a structure video where I will showcase to you how I plan to build my team if I'm playing normal fantasy and what will be the situation going forward. But yeah, I think that this sums up defensive and midfielder contributions, and I really do hope that you found that useful to watch. Before we leave, I want to give a special shout out to the members of the channel: Florin, Oscar, Skauser, Hem, Syntax, Anthony, and Mehmet. Thank you so much for being members of the channel. If you guys want to help me financially, you can become members of the channel, or if you want just support me, you can subscribe to the channel. It's completely for free. There are links down for FF Hub. It will be very appreciative if you join by those links. I think that it will help you a lot throughout the season. They got some nice tools. They will soon introduce defensive contributions, and their predictions will become even better. Once again, thanks so much for the support here. This video is a little bit different from my type of content, but I want to be a manager that lays out my thoughts. I don't want just to share you some drafts. I think that's stupid. But yeah, I will try to continue giving you how I build up the game and how I play it, and hopefully you will find it useful. But for now, guys, I'll be heading out. Bye.